All right, so welcome to another episode of the Blue Peace Crew podcast. I'm here with my wife as usual, and we're going to talk about some issues that parents who have children with autism deal with. And so hopefully it can provide some insight and help you guys out in your journey, just sharing our experiences and some of the things that we've dealt with. So today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of people look into because, you know, when your child is coming up, you want to make sure that you're, keeping an eye on them, making sure they're hitting certain milestones, things like that. I know that's like a really big deal as a parent. So if they're not hitting some of those milestones, you're worrying, you're wondering, hey, is there something wrong? And, a lot of people wonder, hey, is it autism or could it be something like that? So we're going to talk about some of the early signs and behaviors that children with autism will demonstrate. And we'll talk about our examples, and I guess we'll talk about some. I think between our three kids on the spectrum, I think they've all exhibited some of these behaviors at some point. Yeah. So the first behavior that we had is lining up objects and stacking objects. And I know for us, that was mostly like Junior.
Yes. Yeah, Junior, he definitely would take the blocks or the cars and he would line them up. I remember like him doing that on the windowsill in the house, like lining everything up, and it was just different. It just seemed a little, I guess, organized and different. I don't know, him just lining it up, not really sure about what was going on. The twins, not too much of that. Bryce does now, like in therapy, he does do the stacking.
Okay.
But it's getting to an appropriate type situation where he's correcting himself and he's working on doing things correct. So,
okay. And it can, it's kind of one of those tricky ones because I know for us, not knowing anything, obviously,
right.
it doesn't necessarily come off as a bad thing. You're just like, hey, they're organized. Hey, look, he might be an architect or something like that. So, you're kind of thinking it might be a good thing, or you're just not sure. Maybe that's just how he plays, but that is one of the signs. I guess, it's not like a definite just because your child is lining things up or stacking. It doesn't mean they're autistic, but you want to look at a multitude of signs. And if, you have multiple signs lining up, then, that's when you might want to be concerned. But in and of itself, that is not going to tell you, hey, my child is autistic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No.
The next one that I want to talk about is just repetitive behaviors.
Yes.
And that can look like a lot of different things. It just depends on the child.
Because what we saw in Junior, we were excited.
Right.
Basketball.
For example, like, you know what I mean? It's probably a product of their environment. Like, I played basketball coming up. We had a Fisher-Price basketball goal. So Junior would be playing basketball, shooting the basketball.
Yeah.
And, like we said in the last episode.
You played like on the teams. We would go watch you and stuff.
I was in the intramural leagues in the military.
Yeah, you really were.
I had my PlayStation playing basketball games. Yep. So, he would just keep shooting and keep shooting and keep shooting. Me, that's a father's
dream. We weren't bothered by that. Exactly.
I'm thinking
we
this
were
is the
not
greatest
bothered.
thing ever. So, but it was a repetitive behavior. And he was just doing it over and over and over again, obsessively, really. But, it can look like a lot of different things. Like, what are some of the ones that the twins have?
With the twins, it's a lot of vocal stems. They just may say the same sounds over and over and over again, or what is it? Just like a certain object. They just want a particular object over and over and over again in their life, and it's just like no other interest outside of that. Like that's just it.
Yep, it can be a TV show, and that can be something for all kids sometimes, but I don't know. It's on another level, though, sometimes, I think.
Repeating in the same
like
stuff.
Like the same show,
that is
like
true.
all day.
Yep, that's true.
I know Junior, he used to want to watch.
He did,
and it will rotate. It'll be one show, for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
to this day, it's like that. But it used to be worse because it used to be he would watch that same episode over and over and over. I'm like, bro, I know you know exactly what they're gonna say at every point in this episode.
That's true.
But he would just keep watching it over and over and over. I'm trying to think of some more that the twins do. Repetitive with them. Yeah, it's that
The
vocals
sounds.
thing.
Yeah,
the sounds and the vocals them.
But then, Bray will do stuff too where he's just like running back and forth the same way. Like
Bryce will do that too.
It doesn't even get old. It's like literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember we were at the park last time and Bryce, the only thing he was doing was there was just like a strip of, I guess, concrete or whatever, and he would just keep running back and forth.
And he was happy.
He would just keep running back and forth, and he was just having the time of his life. And I got in there with him, started timing it like it was an Olympic event. You got to find a way to have fun, with your kids and their behaviors. But that was funny. So repetitive behaviors is something to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's true.
The third one was definitely delayed speech. So obviously, again, not necessarily exclusive to autism, but it's definitely a warning sign that you might want to look into it.
And even as they get older, there is a thing there where there's nonverbal and verbal. So that does happen even as they get older. But even with the delayed speech, they can eventually talk. It's not that they'll never talk. It's just delayed for some of them. Some of them may never be verbal or speak. You got a lot of things on the spectrum there. But the delayed speech, it is something to look into and be concerned about. Yeah.
Yep. I think, I don't know, I saw a statistic somewhere about how many autistic children are verbal and how many are not verbal. So it's a large percentage that ends up being nonverbal. But I think early intervention plays a role in that. So that's why looking at these signs, looking at if they are, delayed in their speech, making sure that you stay on top of it is gonna, could play a major role in whether or not they do become verbal or if they end up nonverbal. So the next sign,
that's not a tell. Just because whatever you may do does not mean they may go one way or the other. Like, don't ever think you may do a million things.
That's true.
It just may not work, and that just may not be what the outcome is going to be. So
absolutely,
you have to be careful not to go too far, beating yourself up over things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good point. The next one, flapping, the hand flapping.
Yeah.
I think that was. I think all of them.
All of them. Yeah.
Have done that one. I think it's normally like when they're excited.
Yeah,
I think
pretty much when they're excited or happy, and that can even go to adulthood. I've seen adults do it. It's just just one of those stems, and it's excitement. Yeah.
So, I guess in and of itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing within the context of being autistic.
Right.
Because they're happy. Normally that's what they do when they're happy. So, but yeah.
But of course, in the world, that may look odd if you're just doing that randomly, right?
Right. So, I guess that's the challenge, It's like, for them, it's like, hey, I'm happy, I'm excited.
Right.
But, in society, it's like they that's looked at as odd behavior. So it's kind of like, do I discourage it? Do I encourage it? Like,
exactly.
It's part of the difficulties of being a parent of a child with autism. You don't want to kill their joy or anything like that. But it's a tough balance.
Yeah.
The next one, spinning.
They all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, go crazy hard with the spinning. Definitely remember them just spinning in the room, loving the fan being on, spinning. They love it when you pick them up and spin them. Like, they just cannot get enough of it. Like, They love it. It's, yeah.
Not sure what it does.
Yeah.
But it meets some kind of sensory need for them. But definitely, anytime a fan is on, and guaranteed they're gonna go over there and they're gonna look up and start spinning.
And if you pick up one and you do it, you got everybody wanting to do it, and they don't want you to put them down, and it's like you can't stop it if you do.
Yep. All right, the next one is lack of emotion.
Lack of emotion,
And that's something I think we picked up on.
Yeah, to me, that's not everybody. I don't think.
What you mean?
I guess because I think maybe Jew, we were kind of like,
yeah.
But the twins, they gave you like everything. It was like, Lord have mercy.
I think Bryce did. Brayden
just seemed moody. He just seemed like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
He just really gave that face like, leave me alone. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah.
But when Jill was little, I do remember times. I remember you talking about it where it was just kind of blank, like, you're not really doing nothing for me. You were kind of like,
Yeah. I definitely remember noticing that in Junior.
Yeah.
Early on. I mean, obviously he shows emotion now, but
he does.
Doesn't always show the proper emotions and the proper amounts at the proper times.
That's true. That's something they struggle with.
So I think it changes as they get older.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with the twins too.
Yeah. So the next one, not responding to name being called. That was definitely all of them.
Yeah, that was a big red flag with us.
That was a big red flag.
And family too. Everybody just,
Yeah, that's the challenge right there, man. Right. Because, like you said, it's one thing for you as a parent to be calling your child's name and they're not like responding, to you. Like it just makes you feel some type of way.
It does.
And it's not, they're not doing anything purposely, obviously. But you don't really know it at the time, especially you're a young parent. You're like, am I doing a good job? Am I connecting with my child? Right. And for them not to be answering you, it's like it's rough. That's and then true. When you talk about family coming around,
then your family comes around. You probably, in a way, you get used to it, and I don't want to say you're good with it, but you kind of move on, and then family comes around, and then it's just like reiterated again. You're like,
and they did not because you're around like you said, you know what I mean? You're around them all day, every day. So like, I don't want to say you get used to it, but you kind of realize that that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And, whether or not you've gotten to the point where you've sought the diagnosis and you're getting them the therapies and things that they need, I don't know where you're at on that, but like it, you know what it is, but because you're around them all the time, that's why you can.
It becomes your new normal.
Exactly,
and you're okay with it.
It becomes your new normal.
Yeah.
When family comes around, they haven't been around your child all day, every day, and all they know is, you know what I mean, like how you were growing up or how their other grandkids are and things like that.
So they're constantly,
and they are just constantly calling their name. Calling their name, Brayden. And you're just sitting back like, yo, they're not going to respond. I'm sorry. It's nothing against you. You're a wonderful grandparent.
Right. I know that's the thing, too, because you're like, it is nothing against them. You don't want them to feel any kind of way, but you can't control how someone feels and what they're going to take from it. So, yeah, it's a hard balance.
Another one, poor eye contact.
Yeah.
And, that was... all three of them.
Yeah,
all three of them. Mm-hmm. I feel like Bray wasn't that bad.
He wasn't that bad. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think.
And Jew, it was very, very noticeable, but it's gotten way better.
Way better. Like I don't even think it's an issue that much with you anymore. But at first, absolutely.
Yeah,
he would not make eye contact with you. Bryce, same thing. It's still kind of still a very prominent issue with Bryce. But if your child is not making eye contact, that's a pretty telltale sign that you should be concerned. Because, I mean, a normal child is going to make eye contact.
And some others, I remember when I would be looking at different things, some others say they even remember it during, like, breastfeeding. Like,
wow.
The child not making, eye contact. And, I mean, through, like, science and research, I think that is some of the things they're looking at because they're trying to get diagnosed earlier and things like nature. And some of them say they remember in breastfeeding the child. A lot of times the child's making eye contact with you, but they remember the child not really doing that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, social engagement and the lack thereof. So, yeah.
Yeah, with that, I mean, it could even be in your home.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of go to their own corner, their own room, do their own thing. And you're like, okay. I remember that. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I really remember feeling like, wow, this is like a real independent, mature child.
Junior,
like,
yeah.
Like, it's not really bothering you and things of that nature. And, and then you really notice it when you take them out and you're with other children. Yeah. And they really just like not bothered, not concerned. Like they don't even see anyone else there, and it's just nothing. And then even in your home, like not coming to you, not wanting to interact, not hey, look at this, hey mom, hey dad, none of that. It's just nothing.
And it was like Junior was like that, but it was definitely worse with the twins.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if we've said it yet, but Junior's kind of I think he would be considered level 1 if you're talking about the high functioning level 1. Like he's in normal classroom. He has an aide.
No, he doesn't.
I'm sorry, he had an aide in Watertown. He does not have an aide here.
Yeah, that's another such story. But anyways,
it's another story for another day. IEP battles. That's another episode to come.
Sure is.
And then the twins, like Brayden, he would be considered probably a level 2. He can do some things for himself.
Yeah.
And then Bryce is definitely the level 3 of the crew. But yeah, like with the twins, like there was no social engagement with us, especially early on. None at all. Like they didn't come to you. They didn't like if you were talking to them like Junior, the language wasn't there, but if you were talking to him, like, you could tell he was hearing you, he was understanding or whatever. The twins, it was like talking to a brick wall. Like they were not concerned with you being there. They were not concerned with anyone else being there. Like they were just in their world and that was it. Yeah. And please don't bother me pretty much. So yeah, I mean, that one is tough. That one is tough. Like I said, with family on that one too, like, they're not gonna interact with you like a normal child would,
And we already knew we were on a wait list trying to, get to the the pediatrician, whatever, but the behavioral peds. But we put the twins in the pre-K, and remember the teacher's like, oh, okay, we really want to meet with you guys, and bam, they hit us. So.
Yeah, like they don't participate in any of the classroom activities. Yeah. Like we have all the kids over here dancing and da 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 da. They're just over in the corner. She was like, they don't even really interact with each other.
Right. Right.
Like like normally brothers, they'll if they're not hanging with everybody else, they're sticking together. Like no, like they.
Yeah, and she wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
We were like, you're right. Yep. We know.
So
that's why we're on the wait list.
Yep. And then I think the last one that we have is difficulty changing activities, difficulty with transitions. Yeah. And that was
tough.
Yeah. I would say that's probably all three of them. More so, I would say the twins.
Yeah, if they get their routines or their certain food or certain shows.
I can't even say the twins. No, that's Junior too.
Yeah.
Definitely Junior too. Because
Look,
Yeah.
6,
favorite
7 years
shows,
old.
all of
Okay.
that.
So
You
instead of throwing a
Yeah.
tantrum, can
don't
we
have a
explain?
disruption.
Can
You
we
can't do that.
articulate ourselves?
Right.
Can we talk
Children
about
with
how we're feeling?
autism are
How you feeling?
very routine oriented. So,
But it's gotten better for us. It's gotten better. I honestly, I think the military's helped with that because we have no choice but to change at times, and their environment has to change. And
Jill,
we just don't have
instead
a
of doing
choice
all
with that
that,
matter sometimes. But they have actually, to me, I feel like they've gotten a lot better with that, and just a lot better at coping and dealing with that. And even of course, they are in therapy, so yeah.
But what it looks like is just basically tantrums normally.
Oh yeah, huge
So,
meltdown.
Like, I know it used to be like anytime we would go anywhere, like just to leave the house and get in the car, tantrum. Like with the twins, tantrum.
Yes.
Like every time.
Yeah.
If we're changing activities, or for Braden to this day, he doesn't do well with ending mealtime. Like when it's time to go on to the next thing, tantrum.
Yeah, it's not 100% like it's all gone. Like, I guess everybody still has their little things that...
Right.
Yeah.
They still like
it's
routines, but they're a little bit better at coping with it now.
Yeah,
than
it's
they
just
used
a
to be.
lot better than it used to be.
But early on, they're not going to be good at coping with it at all. So,
And that's a sign.
So that's a telltale sign. That's something that you need to look at. I know, and that's why it's important to, if you see, these signs, take the necessary steps.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. That's what we still do. It's not like I hate to say this, but it's not like it's total freedom. Things have gotten better, but we still have to make concessions for things like when we're gonna do this, when we're gonna travel, we're gonna go somewhere. We have to think about everything. We have to plan. We have to time. We just can't up and whatever. No.
Yeah.
We have to plan, time, everything when you're gonna arrive, and because it can turn into a major meltdown.
Yep. I know for Junior, early on in the therapy, they would have like the boards with the different activities and what order, it would be. And that helps them out. Like to me, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. But when you put it up there and he looks up at it, he's like, okay.
Because it's not a big deal to you. Because you're,
Right.
Yeah. But to them, they need to know.
They need to know.
Okay. Even time, I've realized, even to this day, I might be like, I'm not sure. I don't know what time. And that irks him. I can tell. He will ask me 300 times unless I can give him an exact time, 10, 15 or something. Like, okay. It is something like an assurance. Like once he knows, then he's good. Like he can move forward. But if he doesn't get that,
he will keep asking.
Yes. He cannot settle.
And that's, it's like, it's an adjustment, parenting a child with autism. Because in your mind, your reaction is, look, man, we're going to do it when we do it. You know what I mean?
I know I didn't question my parents 3 or 4 times about something.
It's totally different from how you were raised and how your parents raised you. And that's normally
that's the
what you're going off of to raise your kids is what you saw growing up. But you have to completely forget all of that because it's totally different. Their brains work differently. And so, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's different. And you have to learn how to,
That's true.
deal with them and communicate with them in the way that they can understand.
Yeah.
So those are some of the main signs that we experience.
Yeah.
Some of the behaviors that you might want to look into.
Definitely not all the signs.
This is definitely not an exhaustive list of all the signs. So definitely do your research. I would say, Google, YouTube, do whatever you got to do. Because, the autism spectrum is a wide spectrum.
It is.
So there's a lot of different behaviors. Just repetitive behaviors alone, it's going to look totally different for your kids than it did for our kids.
It can, yeah.
But the important thing is, and I'm sure any good parent is going to be watching their child and observing their child and making sure that, if there are some areas of concern, that they're addressing them. So that's pretty much it for this episode. We just wanted to go over some of those early signs and behaviors that could be concerning. I hope this helped someone out. If you have any behaviors or signs or anything like that you experienced or that you're aware of, drop them in the comments, because the more knowledge that we have out there, the better.
Knowledge is power.
So definitely drop those in the comments. If you have anything else that you want to share, drop those in the comments as well. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoy our content, definitely consider subscribing to our page and hitting that like button. Other than that, that's all we've got for this episode of the Blue Peace Crew podcast. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.